Tonight, we get more insight into Becky's death, Sasha gets put through the ringer, and poor Uncle Frank. It's the after show for Chambers, episodes 5 and 6, Murder on My Mind and With Grace and Gratitude, and it starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz...
You wasn't ready for that new jam.
It's very happy for this show, though. I love this.
Right?
Hello, everyone out there, internet land on your second screens. You are tuned into the Chambers After Show. Of course, my name is Flobo Boyce, and I'm so glad to be moderating this fantastic panel. Introducing first on my far left is a guy that I call him an underwear mentor. I just follow him around, take notes of whatever he does. Christian Bladt, how you doing?
Am I unaware or underwear? I wasn't sure which one.
You could be wearing tidy whities. It's cool.
You never know. Anyway, yes, it's great to be here, talking Chambers.
Oh yeah, and to his right is one of my new favorite people on the planet, Miss Jackie Ray. How you doing?
I am doing great.
Just great.
Yeah,
not fantastic.
Well, no, because you're not stalking me. You're only stalking Chris, and I feel some type of way about that.
Well, you can be underwear mentor, but now you're aware of it now. That makes it kind of weird. Like, what are you doing behind me? Taking notes. Yeah, so we're covering episodes 5 and 6 of Chambers. Before we even get into the nitty gritty of everything, what do you guys think of the episodes back to back?
Well, I loved him. I thought that the episode 5 kind of slowed down a little bit, and it's already kind of a slow show, but I definitely liked the intensity, and I like how Sasha's kind of just trying to figure things out, and she's doing it by any means necessary, even though she knows she's probably coming off a little crazy.
And I liked these two episodes because I was a little surprised that we're at the midpoint of the season and then a little bit past it. And they have, at least for now, answered a lot of the things that I thought would be answered in maybe the final 2 episodes, you know? Like, we got to actually see Becky die, and we know some things that went on around it that I was like, oh, I didn't think we were getting to that yet. I didn't think we were going to know about this sneaky character lurking around and staring at people, and this other one doing the other. Somebody wants to Skype in and talk to us during the show.
Who are you?
That makes us feel very popular.
Could be Becky, though. You know how?
Wait a minute, maybe it was Becky. No, you know what? It's Cheddar the Mouse, and he is pissed.
He should be.
Cheddar the Mouse, the patron saint of the show. I have to agree with you. I was surprised that we got a lot of answers in episode 5. It did seem like it was the ending of a chapter within the season, right down the middle, and I'm kind of glad these 2 episodes came back to back. But yeah, so Becky's death is definitely one of the major questions that were answered. How'd you guys feel about Sasha's investigative skills throughout this episode?
I mean, for a woman who clearly doesn't watch Snapped every single weekend like myself, she did okay.
Okay. She
did okay. I mean, you got to start asking questions if you don't know. You know what I mean? You got to go with the resources you have. You have the sketchbook. You have her heart. So you have
very
to
specific tool.
You have to go with what you have. So I thought she did her best. I thought she kind of tried to enlist her best friend a little bit, but she had to tap out after a while. But I thought she did pretty good.
Yeah, I think she doesn't understand the concept of surveillance, possibly subtlety. It's all very like, hi, I'm right here. Would you answer these questions, please? You know, and I think it works really well that some of the people she's getting information from are people like Elliot and Penelope who, let's be honest, they're a little out there in very different ways. So I think it works, but I think in a lot of cases, this girl wouldn't know anything because people would like, get away from me, you know? So.
But in fairness, Penelope and Elliot would be the people who would just, if you tried to be overt, they're going to dodge you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
Because they're the king and queen of shadiness. So I think you have to be, kind of upfront with at least those 2.
I felt like my love or dislike of Penelope kind of wavered a lot in this episode. I mean, she was Becky's stalker for a bit, but she helped out Sasha with the cell phone records. How do you guys feel about Penelope and within her role as being that sidekick? That Scrappy-Doo, if I can be.
Yeah, well, you know what? Scrappy-Doo is kind of a perfect way to summarize her. It's, it's like, everything's all right, but it's just like, could you just go away for a little bit? I know I just said that about Sasha, but you can kind of see everybody's like, just stop. But I've kind of felt for her ever since we saw how badly burned she was. You know, I think that was at episode 4. Whenever it was, and we got to see the wigs this week. So you just see the extent to which, she's a somewhat sympathetic character, but I think that the way she reacted after the accident has really just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But I mean, Elliot even thinks that she made up what happened. So, you know, I can kind of, I think I more sympathize with her than I did earlier in the season.
Sorry.
I wasn't falling for Penelope's. I didn't actually sympathize with her even after I saw the burns until I saw her take her hair
You were
off.
like, good.
No, because I didn't buy it. You know what I mean? I didn't buy, I guess I was with Elliot. I just didn't buy that, something that, I just thought that whatever happened to her with as far as the burns were probably something that she brought on herself because she was doing something or antagonizing something. I didn't think it was going to be one of these situations where, she was being a quote unquote great friend and was locked in a steam room. I didn't see that coming. And I still don't know if I actually believe that story, but I actually did not sympathize with her until she took off, her hair. And then I was like, that's
Well, yeah, that's really what it was. Because that's the scene you see just how badly burned her back was and the fact that she took her. But you know what? Penelope, I'm team you, all right? So somebody is on Penelope's side.
somebody got to be.
So you would say she was ultimately a force for good for this.
Yeah, although I wouldn't be surprised if...
Well, no one's good in this show.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
like,
I mean,
if it turns out she's like a voodoo priestess and she has a little Becky doll and a Sasha doll with pins, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
wow, that'd be a whole different term of the show.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, I think I've just written episode 10.
Yeah.
Left turn.
Well, one more question about Penelope. When they were in the car riding to the eventual party, which we'll get to in a second, did she make a pass at Sasha, or was they reading way too much into that? Where she grabs her hair and says...
See, I thought that was the obsession. That was the new obsession. I didn't
Okay.
know if it was necessarily a pass. I thought she was just re-obsessing.
I could see Sasha interpreting it as that, but I saw it the same way Jackie did, that I just thought it was like, oh, hey, that hair is a lot like the girl I'm obsessed with, and I have a wig that is a lot like this. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're on the same page. So it looked like for a long chunk of this episode, that Elliot would be the one that was gonna, break down and confess for killing his sister. Which I didn't know they were twins. I guess the twin thing was reestablished in this episode. Was it mentioned?
They mentioned the twins, and I'm like, wait, who has twins?
I said the same thing, and I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, I missed it.
I just thought Elliot was younger. Like, I don't mean by like 5 minutes, one of those things. Like, I just thought he was like a year, maybe even 2 younger than her. But,
Yeah.
yeah. So you know what? If they set that up in the first 4 episodes, they did not do a great job.
No,
with
because
it.
we all missed that.
Right, because that opening scene with the fancy cereal commercial thing
Right.
going, like we know now is that whole the twin dynamic of feeling your sibling if they're in danger. But at first it was kind of like, what's his deal? But now we see that. But he's going through his own stuff in this episode. I know he even says it himself. He said that Robbie does not invite him to a party, and he hears the buzzings, right? And he asks Coach Jones to take him over to what seems to be like a group therapy. I don't want to say Narcotics Anonymous, but definitely a group therapy session. How'd you guys feel during his monologue?
I wouldn't have finished. He wouldn't have finished that speech with me. I'd have left. I'd have been like, okay, this dude right here is crazy.
Yeah.
In case he gets to shooting up the place, let me go ahead and exit stage right. I wouldn't have heard the end of that speech.
The cartoon.
Yeah.
Out.
And then he had a line, because I actually wrote it down. He says, my name is Elliot, and sometimes I wish everyone but me was dead.
Yeah,
I would have been out.
Yeah, I think one of the rare times in the series where Coach Jones has been right, and I sided with him. I'm like, yeah, dude, you can't say that. Like, no matter how much you feel that. I don't know. I mean, that's for like one-on-one therapy. That's not for group therapy. I did find it to be kind of an interesting insight into the character that we hadn't seen before. We knew he was messed up in a lot of different ways, but I think that. It was one of these episodes where he referenced the last thing he said to her, right? That wasn't.
It was last episode.
That was, so that was episode 4?
4, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think ever since we learned that, you just realize like, oh yeah, I mean, yes, he had his problems before that, but I can only imagine how much harder it's been to deal with. 1, now that we know she was his twin, and 2, the fact that he said something terrible to her as the last thing he ever said to her.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess he somehow makes it to the party anyway. I guess it was like, I'm going to be invited anyway.
I mean, I invited myself.
Right.
And I'm going to walk in and just chug a beer.
Right.
Okay.
But Sasha's in hot pursuit. She ends up going to the LeFevre house, and she gets invited to dinner, which is always a good sign in this show. And we're treated to, I want to write this right, bumblebee breathing exercises, which was was a very surreal moment there for me. But I think the crux of that dinner was that Sasha actually accused the family outright that she had an idea of what happened to Becky and that Elliot was the culprit. I mean, if you're Sasha, you got to be smart. Like, why would you do that in a group of people, right?
Well,
What was
that
her
leads us
thought
back to
process?
what Chris said. She's not a very good investigator.
Dang it,
because
Scrappy Doo. You're
you
just-
hold that card. But I did feel like at that dinner, you know, the way they're playing it with the emotion she's feeling just from having Becky's heart, and then apparently Becky living through her from the heart, and, you know, hearing these conversations at the table, and probably just wanting some closure so she could go back to her normal life where she's not seeing these crazy things. I think all of that just exploded. And then she just had to say it. But again, that's still is Chris's point. Not a very good investigator.
Not at all. And she's actually kicked out for that, right?
Yeah.
Her outburst. And do you guys remember what she said in the way out that made Nancy go,
Something about
I'm sorry
I made it bad.
Yes.
creepy?
Yeah, and I don't think we needed the video of little Becky saying
On
it.
loop?
But I sure they wanted to hammer it home. It's fine because clearly, like when she said that, Nancy noticed it. You know, so I think that they've done a good job of sprinkling in these things that none of us know Becky because we didn't have the Becky show before this. But you can just tell it's like, oh yeah, this is not part of her character. You know, so I think, you know, and in the later episode when what she says to Nancy when she basically throws Nancy out of her house, you know, so you throw me out of your house, I'll throw you out of my house. What do you think about that, Nancy?
Apples.
Yeah. So I think I don't know, and I think that it's interesting that not everyone, but so many people on the show are into this concept of the supernatural and spirits and things, and like, well, clearly Becky is still here, you know, and the idea that Becky is manifesting herself in Sasha is like, that's actually not that strange, which you'd think, you know, in most of the real world it would be pretty strange.
Right.
So I just wanted to tell real quick, Dr. Lee too says, I think they mentioned the twin thing very early in the series, but if you watch the actors in interviews, the casting is spot on because they look exactly like each other. So
We don't have a lot of scenes with them together with Becky and Elliot, but I'm thinking about it now. You're right; they do look. I mean, they definitely look like, you know, they're certainly related. But yeah.
Sure. So Sasha gets the tip from Penelope. They all meet up at that part at the end, and this is really where things start to come in focus, right? Of what happened to Becky. Which I have a question about this. So Sasha goes to the party. She confronts Elliot and was like, "You did it." And he's like, "Nah, it wasn't me. We had a fight. That was a time before." And she pulls out the iPod or the phone, and she plays what was the name of the song? It's The Stone Roses. I Want to Be Adored. And it plays outside and inside. So I assume that the Bluetooth hookup was dope.
Right.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
you know, accessing the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I mean, I was just like, I guess I don't know, Flobo, you're a DJ. Can that happen?
I guess it could.
It
but
can
like,
happen. I've actually, on my iPhone, have selected the wrong speaker and have heard my music playing next door.
Wow.
Like, my bad.
And you peek over the sorry. But Robbie gets up and he goes inside and he's like, "Oh my gosh, turn that song off. It means too much to feels." He actually confessed that he loved Becky, which I didn't think he would. I thought he'd be like cornered at some level and then say it, but he actually was motivated to say he loved Becky, and he gets punched in the face for it.
As he should, because here's the thing, like, you don't just say, I loved her, and not, I need some backstory. What do you mean you loved her? You got this girlfriend out here that says you guys are practically married. She didn't want to invite half of us here because she says tonight is all about you guys. But I look in the ceiling and see a carving of my sister's initial and your initial. You're supposed to be my best friend.
Good guess, by the
and
way.
And I'm just now, yeah, right? And
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that would be there. Yeah, there aren't a lot of times during this show that I've rolled my eyes, but
Right.
I'm like, oh really? That's there?
I
Okay.
mean, it's a camping thing, maybe, but
I mean, I guess.
nonetheless, we've been best friends since I was 5, and you're gonna tell me you're in love with my sister now that she's dead?
Right.
I did love that came after Marnie had to pull Sasha aside. I see the way you look at my boyfriend, and just the way Sasha's like, just
Like,
Marnie,
girl, bye.
Marnie, please. You know?
I did think it was kind of convenient that once he confessed, Sasha was like, "It's true." Like it was like she just knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not that hard to believe because it's almost like you have, it is like a puzzle and maybe like half the pieces were missing, but then all of a sudden she hears that and it's like, oh, right, now all this makes sense. Why I always feel so, you know, and these little flashes of memory she has. So, Yeah, I mean, I think I think we kind of all knew that there had been something there. I think they did a good job of setting it up. And again, I just didn't think episode 5 or 6 was when we were going to get to that point in the story. So,
That leads to my next question. Do you think that was ultimately the better decision to have the central mystery at least addressed in episode 5?
I mean, I think so because there's obviously more at work here. There's whatever their organization is with the little pyramids on the CDs, you know, there's something going on there. I think there's something with the tribe, you know, there's a lot of interested parties that are, you know, keeping an eye on Sasha and maybe some other people that, you know, they answered sort of the small, you know, the sort of the narrow mystery, but there's a much bigger, I guess, conspiracy, if you will, that we're going to look at as presumably, you know, in the next episode.
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked about the Annex Sanctuary last episode, and it plays here. It looks like Nancy was trying to grieve or to recover in, I guess, like this silent room with a quote on the wall, and the desire to know your own soul will end all other desires, which is poignant.
That's a Flobo Boyce quote. I've heard you say that so many times.
All the time in the streets, yeah, for sure.
Every week on the Star Trek After Show, you would say it. I'm like, dude, it doesn't have anything to do
It
with
has
it.
nothing to do with the show whatsoever. That's why we love you having the show anyway.
Right.
Did you get some advice about having a reborn doll, which I've never heard of before?
No, me either.
And it sounds incredibly creepy.
It looks incredibly creepy.
Eventually, yeah, but she goes for it. I thought if someone told me that to my face at the time, I'd have been like, oh, heck no.
I've actually heard of a reborn baby.
Go on. Tell me more.
I actually have. I have a friend who's, I believe it was her aunt. Her aunt, something.
I'm
Anyway,
sorry, I have to ask. You have a friend or you have a friend? It's an actual friend.
It's actually.
So it's not you.
It's not me.
Okay, great. That's what I was asking.
Look, my family is we crazy, but we not that kind of crazy. So anyway, so she said that first of all, her aunt was having postpartum depression, really, really bad, and then the baby died from that sudden infant death syndrome.
Sure,
Yeah. So then the guilt set in, I guess, because during her postpartum depression, she didn't really interact with the baby too much, and then she felt tremendous guilt once the baby died, and then she couldn't get past it, and it was impacting her whole life. So they actually made her go through like a fake birthing ceremony to like birth this doll and try to give that doll whatever she felt like she didn't give the baby.
Was it effective?
I really don't know because the whole story sounded very weird to me. So I didn't ask any more questions.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, but I can make that jump better than a 16-year-old daughter passing away. And it looked like Nancy tried it for 20 minutes during that
Right.
dinner, and then she literally puts it into a garbage bag.
Yeah.
But it was a real looking baby, and you cannot carry a real looking baby out in a trash can garbage bag like that. I was like, come on, at least put
Crystal
it in a
Valley, man. No
town.
one's gonna be. Ain't no one
mean-
for miles and acres around your property. Did
Not in a clear trash bag.
That's
Come
all I'm
on, Nancy.
saying.
it for the shot. Just did it for the
No, I know. But, you know, and there was something about, you know, this isn't that same sequence, but, you know, when Nancy's like scratching away at her stomach and she's just like, you know, just that obsessed with it. It's, you know, sort of this very Lady Macbeth moment, but it's also just this obsessive like, oh yeah, she is not handling any of this well. And I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I've gone back and forth. I'm like, I think she's pregnant, but she says that they didn't sleep together. So I guess it's all hysterical. But I've continued to think, I'm like, well, somehow she is definitely pregnant. But
Yeah, and I really wanted them to explore that because she said they haven't been together in months, right? And how long has Becky been gone at this point?
6 maybe?
I think it's
3 months at the start of the show.
yeah, and there was some recovery time for Sasha before she like went back to school. So yeah, so I think 6 is probably a good estimate, but I'm not sure. Let us know in the chat if you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah, please let us know in the chat. Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. That scene where she was clawing and scrubbing her belly. I didn't know what the end result would have been. I felt like there was no upside to that.
Especially when she started getting the scratches on her belly, and it almost looked like she was going to scratch herself till she started to bleed. And I'm like, lady, what's the end game here? You're going to get scars worse than that little scar you're trying to get rid of.
Right. That's just. Well, speaking of things that are really messy, our boy Frank, man, Uncle Frank is trying to make things happen with that experimental drug, but he's just in over his head with that loan with Johnny Bail Bonds, paying almost $10,000 of interest off of
For $1,500. Yeah, that's a good investment.
And you know what? And the sad part is it happens fairly often in rural America. We know this the payday loans type thing, but it's not a legal loan apparently, according to Johnny. But again, Johnny has the means to like ping his credit score, which is kind of nefarious.
Which I was like, how is if it's not. I didn't see any application filled out. There was no social security number written down. How are you pinging my credit?
He knows, guys.
Well, and Johnny says that he didn't do it, which obviously, sure, if you're doing it, you might say that. But to me, I think someone else is investigating what Frank is up to. If I had to guess, it's someone with the tribe. But also, there are people watching, and we're still not sure who's watching. Like, there's the guy in the car. Like, who is that exactly?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he's looking to kill somebody. So, I don't know. I think, but Frank is going about all these things, just the worst way possible. It's like, go ahead and steal the Prius. Oh no, there's a GPS on the Prius.
That's what threw me off. That made me so upset. Like, okay, you walked into this house kind of in awe about the amount of money they had. It never dawned on you that maybe they have GP, like that never crossed your mind.
Also, if you run a chop shop, Flobo, we're Mets fans. In Flushing, there's outside the stadium, there's nothing but chop shops there.
That's true.
If you run a successful chop shop, you know how to look for GPS.
Agreed.
You know how to take it out and
Absolutely.
take it off. What I loved about the GPS, Ben was just like, yeah, of course, never turned it on until just now. Was not keeping tabs on where your daughter was and where she was driving.
Right.
This is the first time I ever looked at it. But come on, Frank. I think I do, as I was saying, I really feel for Frank. He's in way over his head. And this is not his area of expertise. Saltwater fish, that is his area of expertise.
Well,
this criminal
that's
enterprise
still
stuff.
questionable.
Well, yeah, but I think he knows a lot more about that than he does about criminal endeavors.
Right.
Already jumping into episode 6, so before we move on to that, do you guys want to add anything about episode 5?
Well, ask me in 100 years.
Oh, good one. I see what you did there, but bum.
All right, quick hit. I got to ask a question. How do you feel about Yvonne's mom attacking Sasha with the blade?
Oh, right. I've often wondered that.
Ninja.
Turned into a Ninja Turtle.
By the way, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Left turn.
I actually liked it. Not in it liked it, but I've always wondered, when we see, especially here in LA, when we see people like talking to themselves on the street and stuff like that, I've always wondered if their disconnect from our reality has connected them to a reality that we just don't see. And so I kind of felt like that's what's happening with the mom, with whatever she's going through mentally. It looks like an early onset of maybe dementia or something like that. Has that caused her to kind of jump into a clearer vision of things unseen?
I agree. I think it's more and more towards that, for sure.
I don't know. I always think that the crazy person on the street who's like talking to himself and yelling, they're actually like some sort of like psychic network. They're yelling at a crazy person like 4 blocks away.
Yeah.
So they're actually carrying on the conversation. So I think that Yvonne's mom is having, I don't know, she sees something in Sasha, and I think it's interesting that, look, I mean, her background is, she's not part of the tribe, and so it's just interesting that she sees whatever this is, because we had the old lady that showed up a couple of times, and we now have Yvonne's mom, and there are people, and the lady who read the aura. So you have people who like just look and be like, yeah, this is bad news. Yeah.
Well, unlike bad news, we do have some good news. Jackie, how can the world follow us and our shows on AfterBuzz TV?
Well, you can start by doing exactly what you're doing right now, which is supporting us by watching. And if you're watching us on YouTube, what you should do right now is subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up. If you're listening to us on iTunes, go ahead and give us 5 stars, and make sure you tell a friend, especially if you like Chambers, but whatever show you like, take a second and just scroll. Just keep scrolling. You're going to find the show you want to see. You're going to find it right here on AfterBuzz with a fantastic panel giving everything you need, because we are the ESPN of TV talk, which means we are here for you for all things entertainment. So again, make sure you support us, and we are here for you and supporting you in the things that you love, which is television.
Fantastic. Episode 6 with Grace and Gratitude, opening scene. We see Yvonne's mom before the night that Sasha is hauled off to the hospital. I thought it was a pretty good scene, seeing how like Yvonne, it kind of pays off how she's so tech savvy. Her mom taught her everything and is walking through her mistakes. But it kind of makes her story just that much more tragic. What do you guys think?
Tragic how?
Because of how she turned so suddenly.
Oh,
that
gotcha.
night of losing. Well, she forgot that one thing, and her brain was fried, and then she changes.
Yeah.
Almost instantly.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for us to understand the character and just, I mean, there's just some very high and low moments for her, and I think it is good to start. I like that the way that a lot of these episodes have started with something that was happening that night. I think most of them have started, with something from that night. So I think that it helps us understand where these characters are sort of in the current timeline, if you will, knowing what was happening at that point.
I definitely think something is happening, like you said. There's something in the atmosphere. And so my kind of hope is that when it passes, that Yvonne's mom will, come back with us. But nonetheless, I did find it very comforting, and I thought it was kind of a very beautiful, subtle undertone that Yvonne is dealing with this all at home, but she's still an amazing friend to Sasha.
Really good point.
So I thought that was a really nice undertone.
Yeah, at this point in the episode, she's still a good friend to Sasha.
Hey, everybody got to choose.
I guess.
I mean, Sasha was put through a lot. I mean, between
Right.
Frank, Yvonne, TJ, even Nancy has a bit of interaction with her. I mean, it's like, and she performed surgery on her own hand, which I can't do. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna try to do it myself. You shouldn't do it yourself.
No. Flobo's going to do it next Tuesday on the season finale.
Yeah,
He's
right
going to
here
cut
with
off
the
his
right
hand.
props.
Yeah.
With the right props.
Special segment.
We'll do it on his close-up camera over there. So
man.
we'll get
That's what we get, votes. But to me, it really it came to a head during TJ's enrollment ceremony. So they had teased a bit of like a strife where when Sasha was trying to investigate what happened to Becky, they were a little bit distant, but she's back now. She's present. She's invited to the enrollment ceremony. It's a big deal. So much so, she digs in for her mom's old dress, which is so cute, but so sad that she shows up to this very, very important ceremony looking almost too traditional. So she's already feeling awkward, and then she has one of her most vivid visions. What do you guys think was going through Sasha's mind through all that?
I loved how she handled it initially. When she initially looked up and the room was completely empty, there was that moment, because up until this point, she's been very reactionary to these visions. And at this moment, she just takes a deep breath, she closes her eyes, and she's hoping. And she hung in there to the very last, okay, I don't know, this might be really happening. But she stood in there a long time and just tried to own that moment and not react so the other people around her wouldn't see that. And so I thought she played that moment really, really well.
Yeah, I think that, obviously, even if she wasn't having these visions, that would have been, a big deal, because we know that TJ's mom doesn't really approve of her, but is willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. But then, of course, she freaks out. And really, who cares about, what was her name, Cara, that other girl?
Yeah.
She's a horrible person.
Yeah, I cheered for that scorpion. But
too.
yeah, I think that, I don't know, to me, something about, going to the reservation, being there, I think that must have, in some way, it ties into it being such a really, powerful experience, like you said, where she really is out. It's almost like out of body, where she's like in a room that is not that room in that moment. So yeah, I can understand her being really thrown off by that.
I was disappointed with the adults, though, because even though I know they get it, they don't approve of her because she's not. What's the tribe? The starts with a P.
Are they?
He has a choose between Pima and Navajo.
Navajo.
Yeah, the
doesn't
Navajo's
do
the
it.
one that I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't choose because Sasha had her vision, so I'm not sure. But they
Right.
speak Dene.
Okay, so you see this young person run out, and she's clearly in some sort of distress, and you tell her, just go away, your bad news. Like, I was disappointed in the adults in that situation.
You ruined our day. How
dare you?
It's already uncomfortable as it is, and good point mentioning Kara, because she was mentioned in the episode before. And I was like, well, who was that?
But she looked, okay, was I the only one that thought she looked a little too young? I mean, I know TJ's like, 16? TJ's 17, right? Chat, you guys have been on it helping us tonight, so let me know. I think TJ's 17,
I think
right?
he's 17. I mean, the actor might be 25, but the character is
The
definitely
character is
17.
But how old, old do we think Kara was?
Like 12? No,
Yes,
I mean,
yeah,
if I had to guess, she's probably like 15, maybe 16.
but that's
That's
the
still
thing is-
statutory rape, though, people. Fun fact.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't
Just a point of order. It depends on the state.
It does
vary from
I
state
went to
to
school
state.
in Florida, 16 and 24. Not that I know
Florida
that.
does
I
not
was a
count.
resident
Florida
advisor.
messes up everything.
I was resident advisor. Well, the thing is, I
I
thought
like that you threw in. I was a resident advisor. That's why I knew these rules.
I did not participate. So the thing about Kara is, it feels like TJ was more of like using her as a chip. Like, I'm going to hang out with her. And even at the ceremony, he wasn't like looking at her longingly. So it didn't occur to me that he was kind of like, yeah, this is my side chick. Now, if that happens, I'll be as distraught.
I was impressed that he actually gave credit to Sasha, because I thought that scene was being set up for him to, of course, give credit to his mom and his aunt, and then, and of course, my side piece over. I don't know who this other girl in the old dress is. I actually thought that he was gonna, he was gonna sell her out, and I was like, okay. TJ's not so bad. I mean, like 30 seconds later, he like clearly is just like, yeah.
I thought he gave her credit to save face, because when Kara came up, there was definitely that connection between them, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, this is my." Never introduce me as a "oh yeah," because now we have problems.
Sure.
And then you have to say something like, "And let's acknowledge my amazing girlfriend."
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So Sasha is having a day, right? Tries to look for answers, goes across state lines, and our boy Harrison Yazzie, man, like the granddad or her granddad that has a little strife with Frank, lets her in, tells her to rest,
Frank, yeah.
tells her to rest, gives her coffee. Well, it doesn't matter. They're talking more about what is wrong with Sasha, but he says what she's fighting is within her, right? And besides her little heart, right? Because even though she's still
little heart,
even though she's seeing Becky and everything, there is something that Sasha has to work on. I mean, do you think she is a bad spirit, in Zen as it is, or is what she dealing with something that is beyond comprehension so far?
I don't think Sasha's a bad spirit. I think that I don't know about Becky yet, because yes, we find out she threw the radio in the tub and killed herself, but we don't know why yet. We don't know what she's been dealing with. So it's but I definitely don't think it's Sasha that's the bad spirit.
Right, and I also think that we're only just starting to learn about Becky's state of mind. I mean, it came out that's like, well, she took the ayahuasca earlier, and it's like, all right, and you didn't think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't let her, be around electronics and running water, I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I think that what was going on with her, that she was on, I don't know what to call ayahuasca other than trying to take some kind of journey and ending up in this place, I mean, look, you not to get off on a whole side thing here, but there's speculation that there are famous people who kill themselves, and it's like, yeah, they were on this really strong antidepressant. So it's like it just changes the state of mind. And how you deal with any kind of adversity. So I don't know. It really created more questions for me about Becky. Although that creepy notebook still has me thinking, like, I don't know what she was planning on doing.
Yeah, until I know what all of those scratching out is doing, and the mask and stuff, and it's just because let's also remember this. Her initial introduction to Becky or to Sasha wasn't hey, I'm at rest. My spirit's not at rest. Help me. It was very evil. Like, her initial introduction was like, let me zip this dress up around your neck and say hi. Yeah. You know what I mean? Hello. So I don't think that Becky's a good spirit.
Fair. Absolutely fair. Sasha's still looking for answers, comes home, finds out more about her own mother, about she was someone that was suffering with an addiction, ends up trying to leave that environment because he feels like Uncle Frank was withholding information. Goes to Yvonne's house, and she gets turned away. Turned away because early in that episode, Yvonne's mother says that Sasha will destroy her.
Yeah.
What is going on with our girl Sasha?
I don't know, but I'm Team Yvonne on this one. Like, if your mom says something like this and you see her pull a bumper out of the road because she said you had to save somebody just as an ambulance goes by,
right?
Hey, Sasha, I'm sorry. Here's some money for a Motel 6, though. They'll leave the light on for you, but you cannot stay here.
Wow. Yvonne definitely did not leave the light on for her. And, it's just, it's sad, really, that the only place she could find any kind of solace is the house that she got tossed out of for saying, you guys are murderers.
Well, so that's not a bad reason to toss someone out.
No, I know. But it's like, then you have to be like, so anyway, about all that, can I remember you have this really cool guest room, right? You were bragging about it back in episode 1, so... Yeah, so I don't know. I'm still Team Sasha, and I don't know why I've carved myself out as Team Penelope as well, but I have to stay.
Different
there
episode,
now.
man. You can totally.
I liked her interaction with Elliot in this episode. It was just like I just wanted you to feel like I did, even just for a second, So
That is the definition of petty. Just in case.
Must be why I like Penelope. Because I will hold a grudge.
Hey, I'm a Scorpio. I was born with a grudge. So.
Really? That is true. And speaking of true, it's now time for a special segment. It's called Fact or Fiction. Ms. Becky Ray, take it away.
Okay, before I get into this fact or fiction thing, I just want to pose it as a question first. I want to hear from you guys in the chat and, of course, my panelists here. Do you think that someone who receives a heart transplant who never had psychiatric problems before is prone to develop psychiatric problems after?
How severe are the problems?
Okay, look, it's a yes or no
Okay,
question.
all right. Yeah, I will say yes.
Okay, Chris.
I think no. I think that the problems would be physical. I mean, if you just think about the way that all of our bodies are interconnected, it's not like I don't know. It's not like other kind of transplants. It's like a heart transplant. It's just sort of like the central point where everything emanates from. So I could see having a lot of physical problems, and maybe you suffer mentally because of things hurt or things don't feel right. But no, I don't think it should affect anything mentally.
Well, you're wrong. Flobo's right.
Flobo's always right.
According to Stanford Health, 63% of heart transplants, they develop psychiatric problems. Some of them actually go undiagnosed. 50% of all transplants experience anxiety or depression. During the first year, low cardiac output from the heart as it's adapting to your body can cause you to see things. So that's why I liked that Sasha is afraid to tell doctors about this, because based on her symptoms of seeing things, of having her breathing increase at random times, those are all symptoms. Yeah. But they're symptoms of a potential psychiatric problem. Also, though, we found out that her mom was a junkie, so she's got a double whammy, because children who are born to junkies, they also suffer from long-term mental issues such as depression, often self-harm. It develops as self-harm, anxiety, sleep disorders, and respiratory issues. So she has, if she were to say this to somebody, they would all say that, oh yeah, that sounds right. So the fact that the way they're portraying her and her symptoms are not fiction, they are fact.
Wow, good to know.
And I liked that Nancy's like, oh, this obscure experimental drug, I know everything about it. Because, let's just assume she's had a couple of prescriptions in her life.
Yeah.
But it tells us a lot. I thought that learning that backstory about Sasha was really insightful. And again, it just helps you feel for Frank, just how he's in so far over his head.
So now that you know, receiving a heart could make you go crazy.
Well,
if you need one, you're gonna take it, though, right?
Yeah. Honestly, if you need one, you don't even really weigh into the conversation.
Can we talk about this?
You just wake up and you're like, hey,
give me that Tony Stark thing.
Yeah,
Just give me that.
That's a good idea. So the website Vice has put out this idea that the new Netflix show Chambers, which we're talking about here, will scare off organ donors.
Dun, dun, dun.
Make no mistake, this show will cost some people their lives, and personally, I don't think that this show is gonna make people decide like, oh, I don't want to be an organ donor, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, Jackie. Do you think? I don't know. Are you more inclined to be like, no, if I need some kind of transplant to save my life, just go ahead. I don't want it.
Oh no! Yes, do everything you can to save me.
Right? Yeah. the world is going to be a better place if you go through everything to save any of us. Right?
Yeah.
I understand.
You guys need us. Just
right.
I'm throwing it out there.
There's so many shows that we have to tell you about.
Yes.
Will I or will I not get a Prius? I think that to me.
Honestly, you most likely will not get a Prius.
I don't know. It's a hard question. Though.
What about a Ford Fiesta?
Well, it is a party in the car. I love it. Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
So, what do you think, Flobo? You'd be all right though? You'd be like, you're not thinking twice about, hey, do I have a crazy dead girl who killed herself by electrocution?
No, but here's the thing I worry about, which is, don't judge me. But
it's coming.
But what? Oh, I'm gonna judge you. Yeah. But like, what if I get like a heart or a lung of like a super athlete? But
Right.
and I love eating ice cream. I'll feel like I'm betraying this entire like specimen by don't.
Or it curbs your desire for ice cream, and all of a sudden you become this chiseled, unstoppable athlete yourself.
Do I get the Prius or the Fiesta?
Why do you like Priuses? Can't you at
I mean,
least
it's
get a
free.
Tesla?
I can't imagine. That to me, that's way too much. I can't. Nope. I'm good.
Well, from the article I was reading, the quote, "Make no mistake, the show will cost some people their lives." That comes from Dr. Susan Morgan. That is a professor from the University of Miami. She has done extensive research on the impact of negative organ donation representation in the media. And when you think about it, a lot of times when there's some kind of transplant, there's usually something evil from the person who you got it from. Sure, that happens a lot. But this article references, there's another article that said, quote, "The Chambers trailer will make you uncheck that donor box at the DMV." That one's from Vulture. So it's out there that they're just saying like, yeah, this is probably going to scare some people off. I don't know. I think that I would hope that when it comes to saving your life, people are like, oh yeah, that thing that I watched, that was pretend. You might as well check off, oh, I want that Tony Stark heart there.
My dad scared me off of that. He said, never check that on your license plate. If something happens to you, one of us will let them know, but we don't want that checked on your license plate, on your driver's license, because we want them to work really, really hard. We don't
Jackie
want them
Ray's
to...
doing more Joker knows.
It's like, oh no, Jackie has a cough, but we got somebody down the street at the fancier hospital
Right?
that needs a spleen.
That'll pay us so much
Yeah.
more.
You know what? I saw that movie Touristas, and I still want to visit Brazil, so I don't get it.
Okay.
But moving on, I want to do our predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
I love that because it totally fits the whole like Roswell, like desert thing. So during this episode 6, the Lefevres go on a date, I guess, to try to rekindle what they had before. Of course, it instantly breaks down because Ben's like, oh, you didn't get rid of the blanket and whatever. So Nancy cuts him off and says this. She looked up page 330, which was a reference that Sasha made to her, and used the quote, "Such pain constitutes a motivational operation establishing escape." What are your thoughts on the meaning?
I had no idea, to be honest. I actually played that part back. I kind of thought maybe it was relating to the dad earlier when he had the sage and he burned himself, because I think the phrase was something like, you can find release or something through pain. So I thought maybe they were both on the same page, but because Ben was talking about we need to let her go and Nancy was like, no, I can't, I want to keep her here, then that kind of confused me. Like, they definitely weren't on the same page with that one, so I don't have a clue what that means.
Yeah, I had to get over the fact that I was thrown off. I just assumed their date night was going to be a remotely nice restaurant, not the place it was at. I'm like, wait, so is this the place they meet at to go to the restaurant? No, this is where they actually have their date. And yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, clearly when she said the page 330, there was some connotation that, that we knew it would come back. But I think that the real problem is that clearly Ben and Nancy aren't on the same page. No one in that family is on the same page. I mean, Elliot's kind of in his own world. I know they've got Sasha staying there. My overall prediction, it's not going to end well for anybody.
Fair enough. I'm thinking seance, but that's just me. I feel like the pain constitutes a motivational operation establishing escape. Or an exorcism.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So, but Mom definitely wouldn't be on Team Exorcism because she's on Team Keeper here.
Yeah, but I think it'll be more of like a new agey kind of seance, like the Bumblebee meditation. It'll be something with crystals. And,
right.
Yeah, it's not going to be like like Linda Blair from the Exorcist movie. It's not going to be anything like that. I think it's going to be very touchy feely.
Yep, and more surprises are to come as tomorrow night we're back here for episodes 7 and 8. But until then, where can the world find you, Christian?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And of the many shows that I do, I just started the Chernobyl after show.
Is that a comedy?
Stop it right now.
A lot of laughs. Beginning to end. Nonstop. Hilarity. Yes, over here on AfterBuzz, the drama channel. That is an HBO miniseries. So we just started that tonight. Check that out.
I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on all things social media at JRayTheFanatic or JRayTheFanatic.com, or you can follow me here on Mondays. We are doing Gentleman Jack. I freaking love that show. I will be back here sometime this week doing Lucifer. Also love that show. And of course, I am here with these beautiful handsome gentlemen.
No. He's
you
handsome.
like beautiful?
He's handsome.
Okay.
I'm beautiful.
Okay, Chris is beautiful. Flobo is handsome.
I'll take it. And of course, I'm Flobo Boyce. You can find me on Twitter at Flobo Boyce, on Instagram at Flopito, and Flopito.com. And unlike you guys, I'm on the Monday Night Raw wrestling program here on AfterBuzz TV. So something a little bit more realistic, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we're
So
back
much
here
truth.
tomorrow. But until then, buzz you later.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.